We are coming to you live from all over Africa. We have a wonderful time scheduled for you this morning. With me, we have colleagues from ULEAD Africa and also colleagues from the Africa Youth Charter Hustlers, wonderful colleagues who have so far spent, I think, 8 months since the inauguration. The African Youth Charter Hustlers is a wonderful initiative which the colleagues here are going to share. But first, let's hear and introduce ourselves. My name is Franklin Mireri. I am part of the ULEAD Africa Communications Department. And let's go around. We have Clemence. Where are you tuning in from? I'm tuning in from Arusha, Tanzania. Clemence, over to you. We'll just have a round to introduce ourselves.
Good morning, everyone. I am Clemence Bawazi. I am also part of the ULEAD communications team, but I also work as the East African Youth Ambassador to Rwanda. And of course, I am tuning in from Kigali, Rwanda, and I'm excited to hear from all of you.
Awesome. So let us take the ball to our colleagues from the African Youth Charter Hustlers. Kindly introduce yourselves. We want to know more about what the African Youth Charter Hustlers is about, and then we will pivot into our discussion this morning on the AFCFTA as we build up to one of the biggest events on the continent on the AFCFTA slated for this Wednesday, 21st of July. Over to you, colleagues from the African Youth Charter Hustlers. Introduce yourselves, please.
All right. So, good morning. My name is Hammond Sapon from Ghana. I'm the African representative for Ghana, and I'm currently based in Ireland. Sorry, there's a bit of background noise. I'm at the bus stop trying to catch a bus to school. So, yeah. And as I said, I represent Ghana, and then probably just a quick background. So, the African Youth Charter Hustler is an initiative by the African Union. The main aim is to lead continental, regional, and national advocacy for the ratification and implementation of the Charter, as well as to ensure effective monitoring and reporting of mechanisms. So the Youth Charter Hustler initiative forms part of the African Union Youth Envoys and a mission of 1 million African Youth by 2021 initiative. And briefly, I think some of the key things that the initiative seeks to do is to advocate for the ratification of the African Youth Charter by 16 AU member states, as I mentioned earlier, and then to actively advocate for the implementation of member states on a plan for action on youth empowerment. The hustlers also seek to actively advocate for the implementation of the Charter in their respective countries, and to help in the establishment of national youth councils where possible. And then overall, we also seek to promote an African model where best practices are encouraged among organizations, and to hold government accountable in line with youth engagement and involvement in various policy decisions. So briefly, that is what the African Youth Charter Hustlers initiative stands for. And then each member state is supposed to undertake various program of activities. So for example, in Ghana, we already ratified the Youth Charter. So what we seek to do now is to engage policymakers.
Excuse me, I may need to jump in a little bit. We are having serious challenges with your audio feed. I think if we could, I don't know if you could allow, because as a true hustler, you're on your way, or you're on the bus stop, and we really appreciate you setting apart time for this. But the audio is really having an interference. If your colleague Joel could jump in and just probably clarify what you said, so that
sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay. So probably Joel, you could take over.
Yes, to supplement what my colleague has said, I would add that the Charter Hustler get their foundation within the African Charter itself, the EU Charter. What happens is we're trying to see how the youth can get involved in what they call the 4 E's. The Charter calls the 4 E's, which is employment, education, entrepreneurship, and engagement. So what we do to see how the youth can get involved for their to the development as the continent. Basically, to getting those for majorly, especially in the chapter, develop the continent as Africans ourselves to get the African point.
Thank you, Joel. I think probably it was my connection or something, but Clemence, did you hear much better than me? It seems like I was losing Joel.
No, it was breaking. Maybe we could give him a chance to just like briefly say it again. Your audio was breaking.
Possibly because I'm using my phone. Let me switch to my laptop. The phone seems to have issues.
Okay, that would be much better. Thank you.
Yes, please. As we're waiting for Joel to get the connection right, and also wonderful colleague from Ireland, but Ghanaian, leads the Ghanaian African Youth Charter Hustlers initiative. We also have Faith, I believe, on the call, right? Clemence, she's called Faith, right? Wonderful. Wonderful. Faith, you want to share what you do for the African Youth Charter Hustlers? Faith? Hello? Hello? Or probably I didn't get your name right. Kindly proceed. Hello? Yes, please. I'm sorry about that. Kindly unmute yourself.
To me? Good morning.
Yeah,
everyone.
morning.
I'm not Faith.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Kindly introduce yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Yes, we hear you.
Okay, I'm not Faith.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
not Faith. So I was wondering, I was also waiting for Faith.
It's okay. As we wait for Faith, kindly introduce yourself.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Thank you for having me. I am Eniton KDG from Nigeria. I was honored to have been selected by the African Union Youth Office of the Envoy as an advocate for the African Youth Charter in Nigeria. So you may ask, what is this program all about? This is a flagship initiative that is building a movement to
Seems we lost any time.
Seems like we lost her.
Yeah. But as
the internet is not on our side today, Franklin.
Yeah, it seems the internet gods have conspired. Anyway, so as we wait for our colleagues to have a much stronger connection, we can pivot back to, I believe, Antwi. Antwi, are you in a position to speak now?
Yes, if the sound is quite okay, I can speak.
Yes, it's much better. Kindly just clarify what you had mentioned. I think it's much clearer now.
All right, so I was trying to give a brief background about what the African Youth Charter Hustlers stands for. That's basically what so overall is to champion youth engagement and involvement in various policy decisions and direction by various African countries. Each country has two representatives and they are supposed to have local-based actions that will complement the overall continental action, which is to ensure the ratification of the Youth Charter Hustlers, African Youth Charter initiative. So once that is done, we can now engage with various youth groups and various programs and initiatives by government that will seek to empower the youth in various decisions in both education, economic empowerment, and all facets of society and life in general.
Great, thank you for that. And probably if to ask, how many African Youth Charter hustlers are there on the continent?
Well, I think interestingly, each African country is having two representatives. So we have 53 countries now, and we have two from each. So we have 53 times two. That gives the overall number of hustlers in each country.
So that means currently 106 African Youth Charter hustlers, two per
Yes,
country.
130 per female. So we have a male and a female to each country.
Okay, so probably someone would ask, there are 55 African countries. Why are the other two countries left out?
Well, when the program started, it has been on a rolling basis. I think sometime last month we had an update. So the goal is to ensure that each country is represented. So some countries got their call very late, but I think more additions are being made, especially on our brothers from various island countries. They are all coming. So we have 55 African member states, and then I think overall 110 so far. That's the last time I counted. That was 110.
Uh-huh. Thank you for that. So the African Youth Charter hustlers are two per country. So that means currently at least the aim is to have 110. That is wonderful. If you could provide, Antwi, and we know you're on your way to your commuting right now, but we appreciate your time. If you could provide just a brief overview on how we know the COVID-19 situation has impacted a lot of your efforts, a lot of your programming. So how have you adjusted, or at least tried to implement your mandate in the context of this global pandemic? How has it been?
Yes, so technically I was supposed to go to Ghana and meet with my partner, but then because of COVID, I couldn't travel, and it doesn't look possible until sometime December. But then beyond that, we've been engaging on social media and then virtually, and we've had 3 radio interviews so far, just trying to create the awareness about the youth charter, and then about the so many people back home don't even know the initiative. So we've had 2 radio interviews to that effect. And then what myself and my colleague intended to do during this period of COVID was to try and write letters to various stakeholders we identified. And then we believe that with this time from now to December, we've had some responses, and the responses are still growing. So we believe by December, when we have practical actions on the ground, we will have a lot of stakeholders replying to our emails and messages, and then we can collectively engage them one on one. But yeah, overall, COVID has been an impediment on our progress. But beyond that, we've also made bit of progress because trying to create awareness on social media has been on a smooth scale, and then engaging with other youth groups. So we have a WhatsApp group where we try to identify other youth groups who are doing projects and programs related to youth empowerment. So we're trying to form synergies. Basically, we've been slow, but it's better than none, and there's still more room for improvement. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Allow me to hand over to my colleague, Ivan Sebastian. Kindly, for the next segments, kindly, you can lead us through that, Ivan.
Thank you so much, Franklin, for settling in our guests from the African Youth Charter Hustlers. We are happy to have them here. And for friends out there who are following live, you can ask any questions in the comments about the hustlers, and we shall be happy to let them help you understand what they do. Thank you so much, Hammond. We understand that you are traveling. Thank you for sparing time to be with us. And all your colleagues that are here. I see Dennis is here, Joel is here. And now I think we are going to go and discuss the elephant in the room, which is this Wednesday. You know, Franklin, we are having the AFCFTA fireside chat this Wednesday, and I had an opportunity to interact with the hustlers over the weekend, and they had amazing ideas. on how we can scale up the One African market. I think it is a good time for us now to interrogate a question of what would you want the panelists to answer about the African Continental Free Trade Area this Wednesday. And this conversation is going to have panelists of all walks of life. By walks of life, I mean that we are going to have policymakers, we are going to have development partners, and it is important to assess that what would you want to hear them address on the One African market. I'll probably start with our usual suspects from the East African Community Youth Ambassadors Platform and the ULEAD Secretariat. I will go to you, Kamala, and you share with us what would you want the panelists to respond to or to address come this Wednesday?
Thank you so much for an opportunity. To me, I see I've been involving in the few meetings we had discussing on the matter. But for me, I would like to see on how they're addressing the issues of technology and how can young people be in the space of participating in the One Africa market. Because like currently we have the increase of use of internet and the technology and everything, but then it's difficult. It has been difficult for the movement of goods and the people across the borders. And sometimes, for example, here in Tanzania, when we want to do business with Burundi or Rwanda or Uganda or Kenya, you find we have the protocols around EAC for the movement of goods and people across the continent. But yet, when you arrive at the borders, there is no friendly environment that can allow easiest way of people moving from one border to another. And the COVID has muchly affected us, and people doesn't trust anymore. People are moving from one side to the other side without taking the measurement and other things. So I would like to see or to hear how our guest is going to actually speak about how are we going to use the technology, the increase of the infrastructure, make sure that there is a movement of goods and people across the continent, but also help the young people to create more jobs out of the situation we are facing. The lockdown and the curfew has led to minimize the jobs across the continent. So most of the young people, they are in home, they have no jobs, but they want to engage in the market. How are we going to create the better environment that these young people can at least engage in innovation, but also create money through online, and they can be able to proceed and sustain their life as usual. Yeah.
Thank you, Kamala. I agree with you that the fourth industrial revolution is already scaling up, and it is only fair that the free continental trade area covers that particular aspect. It's very important. Anitan, I want to come to you for the fireside chat this Wednesday afternoon. What would you like the panelists to address? Anitan, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I lost you a bit initially due to my network connections. Can you repeat your question, please? Thank you.
Oh, no, my question is that for the AFCFTA fireside chats that we are having this Wednesday, what would you want the panelists to answer about the African Continental Free Trade Area and the realization of a One African market? As a young person, what would you like to hear them address?
Okay, I think I would also like them to, I mean, aside from goods and commodities, I would also like them to focus on the creative industry, how we can collaborate better across the continent. COVID has really altered different situations in various countries. So it will be good to know how the creative industry across the continent can work better. Africa is full of talents. So I'm really interested in them addressing this.
All right, that's a good one. Joel, what would you want to have addressed? I know the conversations over the weekends were largely addressing the non-tariff barriers, mostly about travel and how it is hectic to travel within the continent. Joel, what would you have them address?
Like Emerson has mentioned, I would think
Sorry, Joel?
it could be the biggest issue, like Emerson mentioned, is travel as well. How do we get to have youth participate in this condition of COVID? How do we get to, because remember, all these things are youth commitments. How do you persuade the youth to get involved in this kind of ventures? So the first thing is create awareness between the youth. What I'm saying is, at this point, we need to know, are the youth interested? Yes or no? And of course, it could be yes, but how do we get to have them interested more? We need to make sure we sensitize more, encourage more youth to get involved in these ventures, so as to promote the achievements, intentions of the charter.
All right. Thank you so much, Joel. And
have I been captured?
Of course, I'm trying to keep the expert on AFCFTA among us come last. But Dennis, I see you are on. Can you kindly turn on your video and talk to us?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Bastian. My video is not clear as well, but I think what I could ask the panelists at the table, since we are developing the interest of young people into trade, I think we need to think about the free movement of young people among the continents or among the states which are governing the countries, let me say member states of African continent, so that we can motivate young people into trade and make them free movement to see that they can innovate and get more what they need from the trade. Thank you, Mr. Bastian.
All right, thank you. Faith, I see you are on, and so is David. I would like to borrow your thoughts, but I see that your connection is very low. So I think I will move fast forward to you, Franklin. I know that you have interacted with AFCFTA on very deep levels, and it is fair to say that you are deeply vested in AFCFTA. As someone who knows it inside out, what do you think is important to be addressed? Because you know the fireside chat is intended first to create more awareness about the One African market and its realization, but also to respond to the concerns of the youth. And I know that for the first half of the year, you have been doing continental scale consultations, and it is fair to say that every question the youth wants to ask about AFCFTA, you have had over the last 6 months. So for you, what do you think will be pertinent for these panelists to bring out or to commit to towards achieving this One African market?
Yes, thank you, Ivan. I want to fully agree with our colleagues from the African Youth Charter Hustlers. They have brought out very pertinent issues that even personally, I would love to pose to the dignitaries, to the policymakers who will be attending this Wednesday's fireside chat. One of our colleagues here mentioned the African Union Free Movement Protocol. He alluded to it, and that is something that's also very dear to me when we were doing the research. Our leaders have done the right thing. They signed the AFCFTA treaty. A number of them, I think 36 as we speak, have already actually ratified and deposited the instruments of ratification at the African Union headquarters. But what is interesting is that the AU Free Movement Protocol, which was adopted in 2018, has only been ratified by one country, ratification by one country. And that is a fact that a lot of our leaders are not paying attention to, or they are just slipping it under the carpet. That country is Rwanda. That means it is only Rwanda which is putting its mouth and its money where its actions are. It has signed the AU Free Movement Protocol, which actually is supposed to strengthen the implementation of the AFCFTA. Because how can you tell people that you want to have a free African market, one African market, but then the people, the workers, the traders cannot move freely across this continent? So it is double speak on the one hand, but we know that there are a lot of political undertones that underpin the free movement protocol. And these are the things that we want our leaders to speak about. Because you can't tell us, okay, we have ratified 36 countries, 55 countries have signed, 54, the FCFTA. But then you tell us only one country, Rwanda, is the one which is committed to allowing people to move freely across the continent. Then it means there's something missing, because the AU Free Movement Protocol is supposed to address issues like free movement of workers, the mutual recognition of qualifications. If you studied in Nigeria, for example, as a pharmacist, or as a lawyer from Uganda, or as someone from Ireland who is of African descent, who has come back and wants to work in Tanzania, for example. So these things are all contained in the AU Free Movement Protocol, which is actually an enabler of the AFCFTA. So that is an important aspect which is missing in the conversation, is missing in implementation. And as my brothers here said, and colleagues, we should ask this question to our policymakers on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Franklin. I think you make a very important point that if our political leaders want to show us that they have the political will, it should not stop from them actually assenting to these protocols and instruments. I think it goes a long way for member states to ratify and see to it that implementation happens of these protocols. And now I have the lady from Zanzibar. I think they call you Zanzibari, right, Mafunda? Okay. Mafunda, are you on babysitting duty today? Mafunda, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Because
hello,
your connection is not better. We can hear you. The question on the floor is, what would you want the panelists on Wednesday to address about the one African market?
Okay. Hello. My name is the East African Communities Ambassador Nia. So I've been listening to what my colleagues were speaking, and it was quite interesting. Question need to be asked because they are very important. But I also can't agree enough with what Franklin has been saying. And it's true that traders cannot move from one country. I mean, the free trade is not easily gonna be taking place, be successful as it just one country, which is Rwanda, one state that is committed to do this free trade issues, while other states haven't decided it yet. And as the United Nations Economic estimate, the agreement will boost interest.
Yes, Mafunda, I think we are losing you on connectivity. David, I see you are on the call. Can you kindly turn on your video and
by 2020
what you would want answered on the AFCFTA fireside chats?
But now let's see if 20
maybe pardon. I've been really having issues connecting.
Okay, we are happy that you finally got to us. The question, first of all, tell us where you're calling in from and how the situation there is, and then I'll go ahead and ask you the question.
Oh yes. Thank you, Sebastian. It has really been a hectic morning joining us. But yes, I'm calling in from Uganda, and
Right now, the discussions are around, today we have pushed, this is, I think, the 31st day of the lockdown. So the government is looking at opening up the country very soon. So the discussions right now are on the measures, what to have a smooth transition. Really been affected, pockets are struggling. So those are the discussions. Government finished the relief package distribution, I think, over the weekend. So the discussions around now are, what is government going to do? Which entity is going to open up first? Is it the schools? Is it the businesses or transportation? So those are the discussions around right now in Uganda. And we only hope we will have a smooth transition and government should be able to open up people to start trading, because we are really struggling financially. Yes, Sebastian.
All right. Thank you for that brief, and we pray that the vaccines that have been found can make their way very fast to our continent, and we can open up fast for them. So before we
Yes.
leave you, Dave, we wanted you to also tell us, this Wednesday we are having the AFCFTA fireside chats with development partners and government actors. So the question to you is, what would you want the panelists to answer about the realization of the One African market?
So yes, thank you. Being from a hustler's perspective, we've been having these discussions, I think, yesterday and the other days. So the issue is around the standard. I think I will again emphasize on that one, because it's one that has affected many young traders to trade cross-border. Mainly, you transport maize or whatever we are transporting or produce to Kenya, Tanzania, or even exporting to other southern countries or northern and West African countries. So the issue is on standards, maybe on harmonization. Maybe we need to get policies in place or guiding principles for producers or maybe youth engaged in the export business, for the African Union to come out clearly on having a one standard kind of document that will inform the manufacturing sector, so that we may not have these issues on, you guys in Uganda are supplying subs products. You guys in Tanzania or Nigeria or Tunisia, you're supplying substandard products. For us in Western Africa or Southern Africa, this is what we want. So if the African Union or the people directly in line with implementing this, of course, we are mainly, as youth, we are mainly participants. This is benefiting us directly. But if the African Union can harmonize this would really be amazing.
Thank you so much, David, for that submission. Rahma, I see you are on. Can we hear from you? Rahma, can we hear from you? Okay, I think Enitan would like to add some more flesh to David's submission. Enitan, you're welcome.
Hear me?
Yes.
I think wasn't David was the last speaker before David who talked about policies and
yes,
policy ideas for the policymakers that would be there on that day. You would all agree with me. Women and girls have been hit harder by COVID-19, and in a way, this has deepened the inequality. That's the inequality gaps, particularly socially and economically. So I think that it would be good for the policymakers to talk about how we can include women and girls in decision-making positions when it comes to issues on trade And it would also be good to hear policies that would benefit them at this time, where there's COVID-19 and the inequality gaps have deepened socially and economically.
Thank you so much. I must say that we are trying to document all these concerns that are coming from this check-in chat, and of course from the very many youth that are following the hashtag AFCFTA Fireside Chats, and we shall be able to present these questions to the panelists on Wednesday and make sure that they have responses to them. And the responses will come definitely in clarification, but also we would love to see some commitment, mostly from the government actors, committing to do some of these things. I want to say that our time is fast spent, but as we conclude, I just want to let you guys know that we are going to have another check-in tomorrow, because today we have had very many colleagues with challenges of connectivity. But tomorrow's check-in is largely going to assess what have you heard about the AFCFTA in your country, okay? So apart from having hustlers and members from ESC Youth Ambassadors and ULID Secretariat, we're also going to try and reach out to youth leaders in different countries to really assess whether, for example, ministers of trade in those countries have had a press conference informing the country of the AFCFTA on whether media houses have actually invested some airtime into spreading the good gospel of the One African market. But for now, as the culture is on this check-in, because we appreciate the diversity in Africa, we always check out like this. So you first of all tell us where you are. You can briefly tell us the situation there, and then you say goodbye to us. But the goodbye has to be said in your local language, okay? So I am going to start with Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Bastian, for this wonderful opportunity granted to me for today. The situation here where I'm now is of a bit tough, I may say. It's full of challenges of internet connectivity and ways how we're surviving on a daily basis, and the way how we move forward to see that we can change and make a change in our country. To say in the local language, as Mr. Sebastian has said, for us we say, Mweraba.
Thank you,
Dennis.
So Kamala, since you're next, you will say goodbye to us.
Yeah, right from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And here the challenge is we are in the conversation with the government. They added a lot of taxation on money transfer through mobile.
This connection is not a joke.
It's serious, like it's hitting our money like a problem. We can't afford living no more. We just here and we praying God for survival. So, asante sana, kwaheri.
Thank you, Kamala, Mafunda.
It's a real problem.
Mafunda, we are waiting for you to bid us farewell. Okay, I think, David, we can have you now. Which part of Uganda are you calling in from?
Oh, Yes. I'm in Namugongo, just behind the shrine, tapping the blessings of the matters here. So
Yes.
that's where I am. And yes, I think same like Zanzibar, of course, as you may know, Uganda is literally taxing almost everything. Very soon they'll even tax the oxygen, especially the tax now that has been shifted from OTT to the data. It's becoming hard for youth who are mainly surviving on internet work-related, like the work-related hustles. It's really becoming hard, but I will only pray we manage, because the laws are already in place. We can't reverse them, but we're only praying for maybe the lockdown to be lifted and youth can begin again to work. So yes, from me, that is it. And we'll be looking forward for tomorrow. And I'm only hoping the hustlers will find it easy next time, I think, to connect. Thank you. Thank you.